Lana Lang shows up in Metropolis, or is it Lana Lang, Lana Lang, Linus, Lana, la. Either way, she shows up in Metropolis. We're talking about my girl right now. Hello friends, welcome back to the show. So glad to see you once again. And if you're new here, this is the show where we talk about each and every episode of Superman, the animated series, break them down, review them in a retro style, talk about the nostalgia, talk about how we look at it today, and maybe even compare it a little bit to Batman. And today we're talking about My Girl. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in, be sure to hit the subscribe button below. Because today we're talking about My Girl, which originally aired on November 23rd, 1996.
LL? Lana Lang?
Lana!
LL, over here!
We were making some good strides with the episodes and taking Superman in kind of different directions. And once again, this episode feels like a completely different story than what we've been telling, where we introduced Lana Lang. And I really feel like this might be just a smidge too early to introduce Lana Lang into the Superman mythos. But we'll talk all about that right after our 60-second rundown of the episode. Here we go. Lana Lang, who Clark Kent used to date in Smallville High School, shows up in Metropolis. She's now this fashion designer who's dating Lex Luthor, and then she's at this fashion show and she gets kidnapped by these people trying to steal her jewels and her expensive things. So Superman shows up and saves her, but she knows who he is because she makes references to Martha sewing his costume, and he warns her against Luthor, that he is working with this arms dealer and he's selling bad stuff and doing bad things. She doesn't believe him, but she offers to kind of spy on him and is trying to offer information up to Superman, and Lex Luthor catches wind of this, and he feeds her false information about this deal happening in Central City to send Superman far away, but he doesn't fall for it. He follows Lana Lang and he saves her from a lead factory, and then she goes off to Paris. Boom!
You know, this is the first time I've actually been happy that alien showed up.
Me too.
So this episode starts off a little saucy at this fashion show event. We got people dancing and models walking around on stage. Then there's a joke that Lana Lang makes that, once again, I'm not sure how that slipped by the censors.
Lana, are the jewels real?
Everything is real, boys.
One of those jokes that the writers were able to slip by that went right over kids' heads, but a little something for the parents.
She's certainly come up in the world.
There also, in this episode, seems to be some confusion about how to say Lana Lang's name.
Lana. Lana Lang?
Lana!
Lana. Lana?
Lana!
Lana. 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 Lana.
I've always thought it was Lana Lang, but Clark says like Lana Lang, and at some points Lex Luthor sounds like he's saying Lana Lang, which is interesting because I always heard on the Batman show that they typically recorded the episodes all in one room and all the actors were together, which is not traditional in animation voice recording, but honestly, I think that's what added to some of the performance levels of the old Batman show. But in this one, it seems like if they did record this episode all in the same room, at the very least, they would all agree on a way of saying her name because it's just slightly different in how each of them say it. But
Clark, it's Lana.
I think this episode has some really nice has some really nice animation elements to that, particularly when Lana Lang is in the elevator and she's going up and Superman appears and then she gets knocked out of the elevator. Kind of that anime slow motion falling back shot is pretty cool. So I don't know who the animation house was that did this episode, but they really got some nice elements, some nice shots that were worked into this episode.
No.
I could be your trusty sidekick, your Dr. Watson, your Batgirl.
Definitely no.
Again, not to nitpick the dialogue, but there was this great missed opportunity when the buyers of these weapons are trying them out in the woods and they're firing them. And there was this great setup when they say,
I think it's deer season.
And then Superman shows up and says,
Sorry, it's only open season on terrorists.
And he should have said, it's terrorist season. Come on, Warner Brothers, that's your joke.
Duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season. Rabbit season. Duck season.
This would have been a great opportunity, but I'm not a writer.
You're right, Elon. I couldn't see you. but my hearing's pretty good.
But they did redeem themselves later on when Lana Lang gets captured.
Sorry I'm late. Where's Mercy?
Sorry. No mercy tonight.
And the other neat element to this episode, although small, is that they introduce Central City, which is the Flash's home city, or where the Flash takes place. So even though they don't go there, they reference it pretty heavy in this episode.
I don't care. I want you in Central City waiting.
Eventually, we introduce the Flash in Central City. So I like that they had to come up with a city name, and they picked one that is far away. But good trivia, they mention in this episode how far Central City is from Metropolis.
Remember, Central City is 500 miles away. I suggest you schedule a flight.
My major issue with this episode is I feel like that it was a little early to introduce Lana Lang. When I don't remember this episode watching it before, but when I saw that she was going to be in this episode, I thought, okay, this has always been kind of a neat dynamic in the Superman world, especially to have Clark Kent a part of this, because then there's this jealousy between Lois Lane and Lana Lang and the LLs.
You know her?
We used to date.
Get out.
But Lois Lane, other than being in the very beginning and the very end, at this point in the story, they haven't really established any sort of romantic love interest story between Clark and Lois, or even Superman and Lois. So there isn't any place for jealousy, and they certainly glaze right over that. So we've got Lana Lang in Metropolis, who's dating Luthor, and certainly there's a little bit of this tension between Luthor and Superman in that regard.
And I want to know what business you have spying on me. Are you jealous?
But it doesn't go the other way, and Clark doesn't even make any reference to really wanting to be with Lana Lang or having any interest in her at all. The purpose that I feel Lana Lang's character serves in the story was too early to bring her in. So we ended up with this story that was really just kind of, I didn't know what the point was. We're telling this story about Lana Lang coming back, trying to reconnect with Clark, and is kind of playing this middle person, this middle role of spying on Luthor for Superman, but he wants nothing to do with that. And the secondary story of Luthor selling these weapons to these terrorists really doesn't play much of a threat to Superman. So it was a story that I think could have worked later in the series, but I think they tried to pull it off a little too early.
It's only Clark Kent I've ever had any trouble pinning down.
For me, Lana, just be careful.
For you, Clark, anything.
However, they do a little bit of foreshadowing at the end, alluding to the relationship that's eventually going to happen between Lois and Clark.
So will you. You deserve it. Someone quiet, understanding, patient.
Hey, Smallville! Get your tail in here. Perry's got an assignment for us.
So when it comes time to rank this episode, again, it's a very different type of episode than what we've been seeing or what's happened up to this point. But as far as the story goes, as far as the characters, there really isn't a villain in this episode other than Luthor. And the story with Lana Lang is just a little premature to kind of add any weight to the Clark Kent's world or Superman's world. So I ended up placing it at the bottom, at the number 8 spot. It falls below Last Son of Krypton, whereas, again, that wasn't a story that really had much weight, particularly in the 3rd episode as far as Superman versus something, but it certainly served a greater purpose of establishing who Superman was, where he came from, and kind of setting the tone for the episode. Whereas this one, there wasn't any real threat up against Superman, but the weight of the story really didn't pertain to much.
I've seen enough.
So how do you say Lana Lang's name? Like I'm saying it, Lana Lang, or Lana Lang, or Lina, Lena, Lana, Lulu? Whichever. Let me know in the comment section below, or let me know who in this episode said it correctly, or why you think there was a discrepancy in how they were saying her name. Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button. If you want to see more episodes like this, then just hit subscribe, because we have new episodes coming out every Tuesday and Thursday. And next up, we have Tools of the Trade. So you don't want to miss that. As always, I'm Knode. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon.